Here at Spa-Francorchamps, the cars make their way to the grid for the qualifying race in the Blancpain GT Sports Club, this excellent series which is in its infancy but growing all the time, catering for the older drivers, the amateur drivers, the less experienced drivers, the older machinery, and it brings together an eclectic grid and some very good racing indeed. They get 2 races over the course of a weekend. Lots of track time is the main aim, because even if you take part as an AM, for example, in a regular Blancpain Endurance event, by the time you've gone through the whole 3-driver cycle out of free practice and qualifying, you don't get a huge amount of track time, and in a 3-hour race you get about an hour behind the wheel. So what this tries to do is give drivers 2 free practice sessions, qualifying, and then 2 races, 25 minutes for the first one and then 40 minutes for the main race that comes up tomorrow. And the man on pole position is the experienced Italian driver Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, new to this championship, certainly not new to motor racing. If you have a longish memory, you might remember that it was Pier Giuseppe who got involved with Anthony Davidson at Le Mans with a rather spectacular accident something like 5 years ago. But Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, Ferrari enthusiast, experienced GT racer, and he will start on pole position on his Blancpain GT Sports Club debut. And with him at the front is the championship leader, Anthony Pons. We have BMW, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Audi represented on the grid, and Porsche, thanks to Edward Browner with the Herbeth Motorsport car there. One of the Lamborghinis, the Lamborghini Gallardo, is on the grid. The Lamborghini Huracan is in the entry list as well. BMW in terms of the M6, and also there is the earlier Z4, Pierre Hershey, and also Oliver Baumann have those examples on the grid. And the grid itself, as I say, is now starting to take shape in anticipation of what's going to be 25 minutes of racing. Spa, a fabulous circuit. No wonder that it's brought out quite a number of drivers new to the championship. We've had a couple withdraw with dramas after the early part of the weekend, but the field good to go, with Dinantha Malagamua, one of those drivers, making his debut in the championship, although he's no stranger to European racing, the Sri Lankan. He's raced this year in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, now having a go in this instead. He's been regular in all sorts of categories, in all sorts of nations, from Australia to India to Macau, and Dinantha, who has his own motoring programme on Sri Lankan television, will be one to watch in this race, learning about Spa. Up to the grid comes 488, Patrick van Glabeke, the man behind the Curbstone Track Day organisation, Belgian driver. He's one of a number this weekend doing double duty. He's doing this, for example, and the Spa 24 Hours itself. And Van Glabeke, Belgian driver, certainly one to watch. He's been, like a few, having graduated from this championship to the Road to Le Mans competition this year, been taking part in different sorts of events, but on home soil in the immaculate Ferrari, Patrick van Glabeke makes his way now up onto the second row of the grid, where he will line up alongside the big BMW in the hands of Karim Ogier. The front of the grid still awaits Anthony Pons in the ACA ASP car, but there is 53. The pole-sitting Ferrari in the hands of Pier Giuseppe Perezzini. As I say, he's an experienced driver. He also runs in the Iron Cup for the over 60s. So, just trying to think if we've ever had an Iron Cup winner outright, but Pier Giuseppe Perezzini could be that man, and he slots into place on pole position. His qualifying time of 2:20.2, just 9/10ths quicker than the ACA ASP Mercedes in the hands of Anthony Pons, the current Mercedes AMG GT3. Initially, as I said earlier, this was aimed as much at the gentleman racer as it was at those with an older car that wasn't competitive in, for example, Blancpain Endurance or Sprint. But over time, inevitably, people want to win, and so they invest in the more modern machinery. And up to the grid comes one of the latest Mercedes. There it is, 72, Anthony Pons, who slots into position. 3 race wins already this year, and then third on the grid behind is Karim Ogier in the BMW, and he could be another potential winner. Let's hear from Karim now, down on the grid.
Karim, now you got a bit of work to do here. 2 very fabulous cars in front of you. I know you're listening to something. Are you feeling confident?
We'll just see. The thing is really to stay with the pack and see how it goes. I think there's 4 or 5 of us that are very, very competitive. We'll see how it goes.
I think it's time to get your engines fired up. Bye!
So Karim Ogier then has the netting affixed, the engines are fired up, the grid is being cleared, so his main focus now is making his way off the grid. And then you've got the Ferrari lining up alongside in the hands of Patrick van Glabeke. So it's at the front of the grid, Ferrari, Mercedes, BMW, Ferrari, the third row, Lamborghini. You've got 963 Cedric Lima, who is third in the championship. He's not had a win this year, but he has had a couple of wins in the history of this series, which began a few years ago now, back in 2015 when it all kicked off, and it has grown consistently. The overall champion in that first year, Max Bianchi. Martin Lanting was the Iron Cup winner, as indeed he was last year. Michael Bronizeski was the winner last season. and he too has graduated to other categories for this season. And the field now released under the green flag, so it'll be a warming up lap to a rolling start as befits a good GT race, and then we will be in business for 25 minutes. See the variety of car, but one a bit reluctant to get going. It does so now. 24 it was a bit slow away. That being Blancpain Endurance Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo. So it's a car he knows intimately, even if he's not an expert at Spa. 66 Mercedes at the back of the grid, one of the older SLS AMG GT3 Mercedes. There, number 17 is the pseudonym Coach Mackenzie, who's a long way back on the grid by his normal standards in the HP Racing, the Harry Prochik run Lamborghini. Grid cycling through with Giuseppe Perezzini and Anthony Pons at the front, ahead of Carrie Mauger and Patrick Van Glabeke. Then it's Cedric Leimer and Pierre Hershey with Christophe Ulrich and Klaus-Dieter Freres row 4. Then you get to Marco Galassi and the Belgian model, Angelique Detavernier, starting in her Audi, regular in the Zolder 24 hours and the Fun Cup 25 hours here. She's on row 5 ahead of Claude-Yves Gosselin and Christian Hook. Row 7 is Edward Browner in the Porsche. Blancpain Endurance Lamborghini is ahead of Alexis de Bernardi, 6th in the championship, a long way back. The redoubtable Steve Earle in number 111 is alongside him. Then it's Daniel Vogt and Coach Mackenzie. The two Lamborghinis lining up on the 9th row. The 10th row is Louis-Philippe Cernan and Oliver Baumann's DB Motorsport BMW Z4, the Austrian, and then it is Pierre Feligioni and Roberto Raineri at the back of the grid. So the field now turning its way down towards Speaker's Corner. Giuseppe Perezzini has to start as the favourite in this, even though he's new to this championship. He's got years of experience of racing in GT cars, and one would imagine it's going to be pretty hard to stop here. So the field now starting to bunch up as the cars work their way down towards Pouan, and the Ferrari on pole position, weaving around, generating the warmth in the tyres. You've got the Lamborghini of Cedric Leimer there, former Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion, and he too is going to be a man to watch in this race. So Cedric Leimer with Laurent Geny as the co-driver. They in Lamborghini days, but now driving solo. And it'll be interesting to see how he fares here. He was runner-up to John Minshaw at Silverstone. John just doing that race of races by way of testing. It's a shame that we can't persuade John to come and do more, because he's a very quick driver, currently one of the leading lights in British GT, but a double winner in this. And Daniele Perfetti has also had a win in this championship this season, but he is concentrating on the total 24 hours of Spa this weekend. So we've had 6 races, and we've had different winners, numbering 3, Anthony Pons, Daniele Perfetti and John Minshaw, with 3 wins to Pons, 2 to John and 1 to Daniele. So heading up towards the end of the formation lap they come, they'll generate a bit more temperature in the tyres, and then is Giuseppe Perezzini going to get away, or can Anthony Pons go with him? What about Carrie Mauger, who had a rather large accident here, 2 years ago in the Spa 24 up at the top of Radion, heading into Lecombe. The BMW we had snapped away from him under braking, but Carrie, inveterate enthusiast, and again up near the pointy end of the grid in the huge-looking BMW. It sort of looms over the Ferraris, doesn't it? Dwarfs Patrick Van Glabeke's car that lines up alongside. There's the Porsche, number 991, the Herberth car of Edward Browner, somebody else that's new to the series. Behind him on the grid, you've got the Ferrari 65, the very, very smart blue and black car of Alexis de Bernardi, that's normally a bit quicker than its grid position of row 8 would suggest. So that could be another one to watch coming through, as now they get themselves into formation. The race director, if he's happy, will give the call this time, and we will be in business for race 1, the qualifying race for the Blancpain GT Sports Club. The entry, 22 cars strong, stretching back then to the exit of Blanchimont, as now the pace starts to quicken. The pace car as it is will make its way into the pit lane, will be good to go this time, and Giuseppe Perezzini, his first pole position, his first outing in the championship, heads the pack as he comes now then through the bus stop. Is he going to be able to lead into La Source, or can Anthony Pons in the Mercedes get the drop on him? 25 minutes of racing is underway now as they go across the line. Patrick Van Glabeke gets a good start in the Ferrari from the 2nd row. Defence from Cedric Leimer gets ahead of Carrie Mauger as well, and also Van Glabeke comes up the inside line against Anthony Pons in the Mercedes, Pierre Hershey in the white BMW Z4, round the outside, way wide, nearly has to pay to get back in, so wide was he, but he's dropped a load of places as a consequence as the race leader, Giuseppe Perezzini, leads, and in the background there's mayhem, I'm afraid. 3 cars, 4 cars. Coach Mackenzie is one of them. It's going to be a safety car, it could even be a stoppage, but certainly a safety car. I fear that the Audi is involved in all of that. Angelique Detavernier, the model, the Belgian driver in the blue and black Audi, that's certainly involved. Coach Mackenzie in 17 is out of the race for sure. There was another car with big frontal damage that was leaving the scene of the crime. We go full course yellow straight away. Full course yellow to try and keep the race going. Pierre Hershey now rotates. At the end of free practice 1, all the drivers were summoned to the race centre and given a talking to by the race director because they were coming into the pits through the wrong entrance, leaving through the wrong exit. We had 2 red flags in free practice 1 alone, and now we will have safety car by the look of it. Full course yellow on the timing screen. Once everybody is slowed, I suspect we will go safety car, and I did see a safety car board a moment ago. Now that's on the timing screen as well. Safety car deployed. Now you've got everyone slowed down. Now where does it all kick off? Detavernier gets clipped by a car coming through, so she loses it and harpoons, bang, Daniel Vogt's Lamborghini, I think that is. So big frontal damage. Ferrari spins in avoidance. Is that Steve Earle's car? And that clobbers the back, and in avoidance, Coach McKenzie just loops it and goes off. So that's Vogt going out of picture. Is that Steve Earle's Ferrari, I'm wondering? We'll double check in a moment against who's got damage and whom is where. And there, look at the front on the Daniel Vogt car coming downhill. That's going no further in this race, is it? So 2 Lamborghinis eliminated. They were together on the grid. Safety car then deployed. And all of this will eat into the 25 minutes. There's Pierre Hershey after his spin. I think it was Steve Earle that was delayed. There is the black and red Ferrari at the rear of the pack. So through they turn. So full course yellow to slow everybody down. Then the safety car deployed. And hopefully everybody okay from what was a big moment with cars sliding all over the road on cold tyres, trying to take evasive action. There is Steve Earle, who's been a regular in the 24 hours for a number of seasons, but this year electing just to do the sports club races. The American driver, much travelled in his European racing. Came to Zolder to do the Blancpain sprint races this year, which was great to see, just because he wanted to race at Zolder, and why not? So there is the orthopaedic spinal consultant at the rear of the group, making his way now up towards Blanchimont through that fast left-hander in race conditions. But at the moment, behind the safety car, the order is that the leader is Pier Giuseppe Perezzini from Patrick Van Glabecker in 2nd place, and then in 3rd is Anthony Pons in the Mercedes as the field streams through, and Pierre Hershey in the white Z4 BMW in penultimate place after his spin up at Les Combes. So he's got some work to do out of all of this on the restart. So it's a long lap, gives the marshals time, of course, to try and clear up the mess, get everything out of harm's way, and then we are good to get back underway. So down towards the bus stop they come, and this the end of lap 1 of the race, in quotes, but of course all this counts within the 25 minutes. So Pier Giuseppe Perezzini leads the pack. Safety car comes through the bus stop or into the pit lane. I suspect all the way through the pit lane, because that way they don't have to go over the incident zone at the exit of La Source. So good thinking by the race director. Keep the race going, but bring the field through the pit lane, rejoin at Raidillon. This way you keep the race going, even if the track is blocked. So it's good thinking, quick thinking, and instead of having to throw a red flag, you can use the available real estate and keep the race underway. So it looks a bit bizarre, having everybody coming down the pit lane, but it's happening. Had it in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo race here, in fact, last year when we had a start line drama. So Pier Giuseppe Perezzini leads the way. There is Patrick Van Glabecker in 2nd place. In 3rd is Anthony Pons, and then in 4th is the Lamborghini of Cedric Lima. In 5th place should be Klaus-Dieter Frères, ahead of Carrie Moget, who dropped back on the opening lap. 7th there is Marco Galassi. Behind him, you've got Alexis de Bernardi. 9th is 51 Ferrari, there it is, which is Christoph Ulrich, ahead of number 4 of Claude Gosselin. And then the next car in the queue as they come down the pit lane should be Christian Hoch, number 33. It is. He's done occasional Blancpain sprint races, Nürburgring last year, for example. Behind Hoch is 24, which is Delanthe Malagamoa's Lamborghini. There you can see the reason why we have to use the pit lane, because they're still clearing Coach McKenzie's car from the endurance pit straight. So everybody comes through the pit lane. And as I say, excellent thinking by the race officials, by Alain Adom, the race director, and his team, to use the pit lane to keep the race going while the marshals attend to Coach McKenzie's car, which should be easily moved when they get the snatch vehicle to it, because there's an access gate straight opposite. So just nip it through the gap and you're good to go. But first of all, there is the Audi also there being pulled out of the way. Angélique Detavernie's debut in the Blancpain GT Sports Club has not, I'm afraid, been a long nor successful one. Daniel Vogt, the driver from Liechtenstein, getting his car out of harm's way. Steve Earle managed to get through the mess, so he's at the back of the queue. And of course, there's also liquid that needs to be addressed, that's dropped out of the Lambo. Now the fear is as to which of these cars are going to be able to take part tomorrow. So the cars work their way up through Radion. There's another snatch vehicle on its way to go and take Coach McCanzy's car off the grid. Had a quick look at Claude-Yves Gosselin there, former Paul Belmondo Racing FIA GT Viper driver, Formula 3000 peddler many, many years ago. Given his experience, Claude-Yves really ought to be the man to beat in this, but the world has moved on a little bit, and he seems to be quite content just racing for fun. At the Paul Ricard's second race, though, a lap down after an early pit stop, he was rather frustratingly matching the pace of the leaders, but with no blue flags, he wasn't being asked to move out of the way, so people were getting caught up behind him, which was affecting the overall race and individual race battles. But here, hopefully, he'll be able to make progress on the lead lap once we go racing, Claude-Yves Gosselin down in 10th spot. So we run behind the safety car whilst the start line incident is attended to, and there out of Speaker's Corner turns the field, this great mix of cars, current GT3 machinery, previous generation GT3 machinery. We have 4 5.8 Ferraris as well as the newer 4 8.8s on the grid, and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini leading the way in the AF Corsa run 4.88 GT3. So the cars putting some warmth into the tyres. Come now then down to Bath. There you can see Daniel Volkert's car out of harm's way, being reversed into the endurance pit, so it's off the track. And what about Coach McCanzy's Lamborghini up at the top of the hill? That was the other car that was being retrieved. So the 2 HP Racing Lamborghinis, both suffering big damage. The 2 Huracans ending up in the incident. I think I'm right in saying that Coach McCanzy kind of lost it in avoidance, rather. He hit the brakes, cold tyres, lost adhesion, rather than being clipped by another car. Daniel Volkert completely innocent as well, as the Angelique Detavernier Audi came across the road. So we'll see how it all panned out in a moment again, because as we saw, the Audi got turned across, but I think there was another Ferrari that was going for a gap that kind of triggered it. So when we have another look at the replay, we'll try and piece it together. Is the safety car going to have to do another lap? Yes, lights are still on. But cold tyres and drivers with limited experience, big powerful cars. And have a look at the back of the shot. Now, Detavernier's Audi, there, look, there's the black and green Ferrari that goes for a gap, clips the Audi, turns that into the front of Daniel Voigt's car. There's the accident. Steve Earle spins in avoidance, and Coach McCanzy turns and hits the brakes to try and avoid it and ends up putting himself in the barrier. But I've got a feeling it might have been Christian Hook's Ferrari that was going for the gap that clipped the Audi. So Angelique Detavernier was, as I say, biffed into that. It wasn't her fault. She was glanced by a car going for a gap that wasn't quite the right width, really. And that's where it all started to trigger from. But the concern, of course, is that you've got some big damaged cars and another race tomorrow morning at the start of 24-hour day here at Spa. It's a shame that we have an incident like that, especially involving somebody new to the series like Angelique Detavernier. But as I say, she's an experienced driver from Fun Cup, long-distance races. So that car out, Coach McCanzy out, Daniel Vogt out, and Steve Earle, I think, managed to squeeze his way through the melee, still circulating the pack. So we've lost the first 10 minutes, sadly, as the cars come through. We've done we haven't done 2 racing laps, we have done 2 laps of the race, both of which have been concluded through the pit lane. There is Coach McCanzy's car now on the back of the flatbed. And so, of course, when you have a safety car, you have to wait until the end of the lap. If it were full course yellow, that could be taken away, and the green flag situation could be reinstalled straight off. But we're going to have to complete this lap. I would imagine we will go racing at the end of it, in fairness. At the moment, it's quite fun looking at the GPS tracking system, because it shows virtually no cars on the track. Only now does the circuit fill up, because, of course, they've all been in the pit lane. Coming back onto the track at Radion. And as they do so, race order, of course, doesn't change. There is the black and green Ferrari of Christian Hook. That, I may be wrong, in which case apologies to Christian Hook, but that was the one I think was going for a gap that wasn't quite the right width. But Christian Hook for Rinaldi Racing accelerates back on track now. And as I say, fingers crossed, we should be good to go racing again at the end of this lap. So what's that going to give us? Something like 11 minutes or so. Lights are still on top of the safety car as the Audi makes its way up towards Les Combes. We've had a busy day of action here with practice, qualifying, racing for Formula 3, for Lamborghini and for the Peugeot 308 Cup. And the fans that get a real feast of motorsport, because from the virtually 9 o'clock on Thursday until 4:30 on Sunday afternoon, the circuit is hardly ever quiet and tranquil. There's always something, it seems, going on, whether it's night practice or lots and lots of racing that you get with so many support races. So it's a busy, busy weekend, and it's great to see as many people as we've had already this weekend enjoying the great atmosphere of Spa. When you get the 24-hour race itself underway and you start to drift into the night time, there are concerts that get underway with the funfair as well, and the firework display, and all the barbecues for the drivers to smell. And although in theory attention still is on the track, there's all the extra elements as befits a good 24-hour race weekend. Simple Minds drummer Mel Gaynor among the musicians here this weekend, who I've got a feeling used to do some racing himself in late 80s Honda CRX 1 make days in guest cars and things. So I think there is a motor racing link between Mel Gaynor headlining tomorrow night and motor racing. Anyway, here we go, down towards Podium, and Giuseppe Perezzini will lead on the restart. Is he going to be able to hang on to that advantage? We'll see. Patrick Blancpain is the man in second spot, so it's Ferraris 1, 2, Mercedes 3, Lamborghini 4, Ferrari 5 and BMW 6. Are the lights out? Not yet. Still awaiting confirmation. So as the cars turn through the pith path now, the Ferrari 488 leading the way. And there is the recovery vehicle. LAV downhill, down towards Eau Rouge, but turn sharp right, you're into the pit lane, out of harm's way. So I'm still confident that we can get things underway this time. Alain Adam and his team in race control will be assessing where the low loader peels off relative to where the safety car is. Hopefully can give the command this time for lights out. I think they've just been switched off now. Yes, safety car is in this lap, so we will go racing with probably, what, 10.5 minutes or so of 25 still to go, but at least the race keeps going. And with the demands of other categories still to come for live television, then better it's a race that continues for the 25 minutes rather than have to be stopped. So through Blanchimont they will turn, pace will quicken. Now bear in mind, of course, they've done so little competitive running. Tyres are still going to be fairly cold, pressures are still going to be fairly low. They're going to be careful on the restart, but the likes of Perezzini and Van Glabeker and Pons and Lima, the top four, all experienced drivers, should be good to cope with that. As now sprinting away, Pier Giuseppe Perezzini comes down towards the bus stop. The yellows will be withdrawn this time, the green flags will be waved, and we've got one driver who's dozed off, I think, or has got a problem, because at the back of the pack there's a car that slowed right down, peeling out of the way. We'll come to that in a moment. It might be Alexis de Bernardis Ferrari. So look, you've got two distinct groups. The first wave has got away. We go racing again. So Perezzini leads into La Source. In second spot, Van Glabeker as they turn their way out of the hairpin. Third is Pons, fourth is Lima. Downhill they turn, and that takes you to, what, the end of the top 8 pretty much. Christoph Ulrich at the back of that little group. Do we have one for the pit lane? We do. It's Alexis de Bernardi. I was right. It was his Ferrari that's got a problem. So he is into the pit lane as now the race leaders pound uphill. Nose to tail then, and a flash, or rather cheeky flash of the headlights by Patrick Van Glabeker. He's on the back of Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, the Italian ahead of the Belgian driver. Van Glabeker, who's had a pretty miserable season with damage at Paul Ricard, with frustration elsewhere, wants a win on home soil. Perfect way to get himself in the mood for tomorrow with the 24 hours, which is the main focus for him this weekend. But here the track day operator hunting down the race leader as they come out of Les Combes down towards Bruxelles. We've got just under 10 minutes of the race to go now as they work their way down towards that right-hander. Their fourth is Cedric Lima in the Lamborghini. Fifth at the moment is Klaus-Dieter Frères, and for sixth, Karim Auger in the BMW. Best of anybody, not surprisingly, because we've done so little racing in Sector 1, Van Glabeker, but he's taking Anthony Pons with him in the third place Mercedes. Downhill they go together. Fourth is Cedric Lima, hanging on in there as well in the Lamborghini Huracan. So through the long left, the double left, at Pons they turn. Blancpain then inching his way up onto the tail of Giuseppe Perini. Another driver attracted by this largely AM-only category without the professional drivers terrorising you through the right and the left of the pith path they turn. Anthony Pons could be the danger. He, like Perini, is somebody else that's raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and he's closing up onto the back of Blancpain, who, if he doesn't get on with the job, he's going to have to think about defending rather than attacking. They run wide up the curb, coming to the exit there of Campus, now through the Cours Paul Frere. Speed building as they accelerate up towards Blanchimont. Green lights flash, the race live once more as into Blanchimont they come. Blancpain doing the absolute best in Sector 1. Pons catching him in Sector 2, though, by nearly a second and a bit. So Pons is on an absolute mission here. We're getting drivers already warned about track limits, notably Dylan Malagamur. So there, 72, Anthony Pons closing on the two Ferraris. Spa has always been a good Mercedes circuit, of course. And now as he works his way up towards the timing line, having started on the outside of the front row, recovering from a slowish getaway, he's caught back up to Blancpain as they go through. Fourth over the line is Lima, gap back fifth. It's Classi de Frères ahead of Auger, ahead of, in seventh place now, Marco Galassi. And then the gap is to Christoph Ulrich in eighth place, delayed with the dramas for De Bernardi. Ninth is Gosselin, 10th is Christian Hook. The leader getting away now, though, isn't he? Giuseppe Perini, more confident now that he can push with the tyres getting some temperature into them. He's really storming clear as he heads uphill, and Blancpain having to think about defending his second place. Pons going after him here. Up towards Les Combes they go. Can the Mercedes make a move? Yes, no, yes. Pons thought about it. Blancpain defended. They brake, they turn in through the right, through the left. And they swing their way now towards the exit of Les Combes, but this now takes away any real opportunity Blancpain would have had of going after the leader Perini, because he's defending from Pons, delaying himself in the process. Anthony has a look to the inside of Patrick's Ferrari down at Bruxelles, but Blancpain moves across and hangs onto the place. Downhill he will turn now towards Speaker's Corner, and not that far behind in fourth place, still charging on, is Cedric Lima. So he too is inching up onto the back of the second place duel. In fifth place you've got Classi de Frères, and then sixth it remains Karim Auger in the BMW. Through Pont they come now. Towards Pif Paf, Pons to the outside, slots back in. And now the right, left of Pif Paf, Fagnes down towards Campus they come. Second and third, almost second, third and fourth, because Lima is virtually there. Blancpain now is holding up the Mercedes, and that's giving a real chance to Cedric Lima. The Swiss driver is closing up all the time here. So Lima on the tail of the Mercedes, just about. The Mercedes very much on the tail of the Ferrari, and Perini says goodbye, and he's just driving away up the road now. It was 0.8 of a second the advantage at the start of this lap. Best lap thus far set by Anthony Pons, but he can't do it this time around because he's got a face full of the Ferrari of Blancpain. Down towards the bus stop chicane they come. Pons to the inside of the Ferrari. Plenty of real estate given to him on the inside, and through goes Anthony Pons. So Patrick Blancpain drops back, slots in behind him. They come now out of the bus stop over the timing line with just under 6 minutes to go. And now that Pons has gone through, is Blancpain going to fight back? Well, he does have a look on the inside, thinks about it, but he's also got to think about defending here from Lima as they turn out of the hairpin. Downhill they plunge once again here, down towards Eau Rouge, but Perini now is 3 seconds clear. Pons in second place, trying to go after him. Has he got time left in the race? There is just over 5 minutes remaining. There is Lima in fourth spot. So you've got Ferrari, Mercedes, Ferrari, Lamborghini, all the brands, the top brands in this GT Sports Club, and there you've got some of them all in the top 4 battle at the moment. Fifth is Ferrari, sixth is BMW, Ferrari 7th, Ferrari 8th, Ferrari 9th, Lamborghini is 10th, and BMW 11th. Pierre Hershey 21, after spinning on the first lap, is up into 11th spot as Blancpain loses a little bit more time against Pons because he's got to defend from Lima. Turning their way now down towards Bruxelles. Cedric Lima thinking about the inside line, a flash of the lights, trying to unsettle Blancpain, but not able to do it there. To Speaker's Corner they come through the left, drop downhill, speed building all the while down towards Pont. But even though Anthony Pons is away after Giuseppe Perini, he's over a second slower in the first sector. There's Karim Auger lining up to have a go here on the inside of Classi de Frères, who defends. Karim Auger thinks about the outside line. Can't do it there either. Slots in behind him. They run nose to tail all the way through Pont. So that's the fight at the moment for 5th and 6th places, where Frères keeps Ogier at bay. Steve Earle, after being delayed early on, is in 13th place, trying to make progress as well. And 3 damaged cars hopefully can be repaired for tomorrow, but the teams, certainly HP Racing, have got a lot of work to do overnight. There, up the curb, Klaus-Dieter Frères, the former historic and DMV German Saloon Series racer. Got Cedric Leimer, mainstay of Lamborghini racing for many, many seasons before coming into the multi-mark GT Sports Club. He's riding shotgun. Through they come. Cedric Leimer on the back of Van Baker. You've got Ogier on the back of Frères. And we've got more and more drivers now being warned about track limits, some at Raidillon, some at Blanchimont. But Pier-Giuseppe Perezzini, well clear up front. Anthony Pons look away and gone as far as the 2nd place car is concerned. Patrick Van Baker having to defend, delaying himself and letting the top 2 get away. Fastest lap just done by Perezzini as Ogier is up and past the Ferrari of Klaus-Dieter Frères as they come over the timing line. So the change for 5th place happens, but Frères tries to get it back. They come over the line a 10th apart. Ogier on the inside line, Klaus-Dieter Frères on the outside as they break for the hairpin. Through La Source they go. Best lap of the race by the leader then. Pier-Giuseppe Perezzini trying to get away. 3.3 seconds to the good. Look to the top of the hill. Karim Ogier is ahead of Klaus-Dieter Frères, but he's only just ahead of him. He's under attack, isn't he? We've got this lap and one more, I would propose, as the cars now come through Eau Rouge, climbing up Raidillon once more. And now the BMW pulls clear. This is a good part of the circuit for the big BMW. Can use all of that grunt as the leaders go through. Perezzini then still getting away by a second and a bit in the first sector alone. So Pier-Giuseppe Perezzini has checked out here as Delantha Malagamua, the Sri Lankan, comes through ahead of Steve Earle, the American. True international lineup, this. Malagamua we've seen lots of in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but having an outing this weekend. He's first in the Blancpain GT Sports Club. He's raced in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia for the last couple of 3 seasons, and he's about to lose out to the enthusiastic American Steve Earle up the inside, moustache bristling as he hits the brakes late, goes through, gains a place, and that now puts Steve Earle up into 12th spot. Heads down towards the right-hander of Bruxelles. Behind, look, you've got the Porsche, which is the car of Edward Brauner, who's been a stalwart Porsche racer at club level in Germany, had a spell in the Carrera Cup Deutschland earlier on in the year, but perhaps this a rather more comfortable home for him as number 2 turns through Karim Ogier. Tightens his line and picks up the curb and the dirt there on the inside line. 5th he is. The race leader, Pier-Giuseppe Perezzini, will squeeze one more lap out of this race in what's been a dominant display. He comes then now up through Blanchimont. Power and clear of everybody else, although intriguingly, despite the fact he's so good in the first sector, the longer middle sector, where perhaps you need the grunt, not the agility, is where Anthony Pons is stronger, and again, he does the absolute best of anybody in the race in that sector 2 laps in a row, but Perezzini is long gone up the road. 3.3 seconds clear he was last time. He's one of the few people not being warned about track limits as well as he comes over the line. There is Anthony Pons behind him, chasing. Van Baker is 3rd, still clear of Cedric Leimer. Onto the last lap they go. The leading gap has gone up to 3.7 seconds now. There you've got Van Baker ahead of Leimer, ahead of Ogier, ahead of Frères. They break for La Source, they turn through the right-hander and then dive downhill once more. There is the number 2 BMW, Karim Ogier, having started 3rd, drops to 5th, having been mugged a bit at the start, and if you look down the pit lane you'll see a Nissan, and that is a car that's going to go to an exploratory lap after damage last night and repair work done, ready for the 24 hours tomorrow. But the live race, the GT Sports Club cars accelerate past. We're on the last lap, the 8th lap of the race, 3.7 seconds the margin, and Perezzini to Pons is extended again in the first sector. There is Patrick Van Baker, who's shaken off the challenge of the Lambo now, hasn't he? So the Belgian driver pulling clear in that very well presented Ferrari. The deeper red worked on that car, the attractive livery on it as you look at the AF Corsa car up the road of Pier-Giuseppe Perezzini. Patrick Van Baker's car also AF Corsa run, and between them you've got the number 72 ACA ASP Mercedes of Anthony Pons. So the point being in all of this that you've got the same teams that operate at the high GT level in the Blancpain Sprint, Blancpain Endurance Series, in the case of AF Corsa, of course, in the World Endurance Championship as well. And here they are, running customer cars in Blancpain GT Sports Club and giving the customers a competitive and a reliable and durable car with which to go racing. So this championship not only is a good home for drivers wanting to race at this level. It's another source of income for the teams, and it's also a home, as I say, for the older machinery, where the 458s and the old BMW Z4s can take on the more recent machinery. Through turns 53, Pier Giuseppe Perezzini. He's on target for an impressive race win. Welcome to Blancpain GT Sports Club, Pier Giuseppe. He's an experienced driver, and he's put it all to good use in this race as he powers his way out of Blanchimont, heads up now towards the bus stop for the last time. The checkered flag is at the ready, not as many racing laps in as he would necessarily have liked with that earlier safety car period, but it is going to be a win, first time out for Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, who comes now up towards the checkered flag. And it is going to be a win in the qualifying race and pole for the main race for Pier Giuseppe Perezzini in the AF Corsa Ferrari, who comes through then to score a race win. Second will go the way of Anthony Pons, and third to Patrick van Glabeke. And the Iron Cup is won by Pier Giuseppe Perezzini. Klaus-Dieter Frères will be on target for second, and Steve Earle third in the Iron Cup. So he gets on the podium, does Steve Earle, despite the delay earlier on. There is Claude-Yves Gosselin, who will be 10th behind Christian Hook as they come to the line. Pierre Hershey behind them. In this race, you only get points in the top 6. So that is Perezzini, Pons, Glabeke, Lima, Auger and Frères. Battle on between Delanfa Malagamur here, and also in the Porsche look, it is Edward Browner. The Herberth Motorsport Porsche up towards the timing line. Delanfa Malagamur fends him off for 13th place, 14th for the Porsche, and in the background 15th is the Team Mauricelli Ferrari that comes through with Louis-Philippe Sonnen through as well. So there is, in the end, you've got to say, a relatively easy winner, because Pier Giuseppe Perezzini was able to get away early, build up the gap, and Anthony Pons, by the time he'd wriggled his way through the traffic, coming through for second, 3.7 seconds adrift. But the safety car period eating into the early part of the race, but Pier Giuseppe Perezzini is a very happy man indeed. Celebrates with the team. Helmet off, and shortly he will head to the top step of the podium. So Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, a delighted race winner. Second place, Anthony Pons, Patrick van Glabeke third, and as I say, the Iron Cup win for the over 60s goes the way of Pier Giuseppe Perezzini as well. I think I'm right in saying that's the first outright win for an Iron Cup driver as well. There, the door opening on the Ferrari of Klaus-Dieter Frères, who will clamber out of the car. Still to come this evening here at Spa-Francorchamps is what's called Super Pole, the top 20 shootout for the 24 hours, and the grey clouds that have been rather menacing all afternoon are still hovering, still taunting the teams, making them wonder whether or not they're going to get a dry or a wet run in at the end of the afternoon. So the fans with their tents, with the deck chairs, camping out in the mountains, Porsche and Mercedes fans there. And in that Blancpain GT Sports Club, good if you're a Ferrari fan, with a win for Pier Giuseppe Perezzini ahead of Anthony Pons and then Patrick van Glabeke. Cedric Lima taking fourth ahead of Karim Auger. Klaus-Dieter Frères sixth from Marco Galassi, and then Christoph Ulrich with Christian Hook and Claude-Yves Gosselin rounding out the top 10. Hershey, Steve Earle 12th after being delayed in that earlier melee, and then for 13th spot, the GDL Racing Gianluca De Laurenti team car of Delanfa Malagamur ahead of the Porsche of Edward Browner, Louis-Philippe Sonnen next from Oliver Baumann, Pierre Feligioni from Roberto Raineri. Alexis de Bernardi had a pit stop and got to 19th, and of course with damage we lost Angelique de Tavernier, Daniel Vogt and Coach McKenzie, the pseudonym driver at the start of the race. So, for Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, an excellent drive, and it is time perhaps that we heard from Pier Giuseppe, because that was a mighty impressive drive. Our reporter Dakota Jane has caught up with him in pit lane.
Well, congratulations, what a race that was. You must be very happy.
Thank you. It was a perfect race. In the starting there was an accident, a big accident. We had a safety car, then I will start in front, and I controlled the race without any problem. The car was perfect, and I drive very well. I'm very happy.
Congratulations, thank you.
So Pier Giuseppe Perezzini is a very happy man, and he will now make his way up towards the podium. Anthony Pons there, second place, but from Anthony's point of view, it's more points for the championship, which is very important indeed. We've had a number of drivers dropping in and out this year, and Anthony Pons keeps racking up the points, and it's looking good for him as far as the championship is concerned. So looking back on the race, after that warming up lap, the cars got underway over the start and finish line, but it was at the back of the pack where Angelique de Tavernier was clipped. She spun across the road and hit Daniel Vogt. She was hit as well by a spinning Steve Earle, who was remarkably lucky to get away with that. Edward Browner so nearly T-boned Coach McKenzie. There was an awful lot of near misses in order. That it could have been a whole lot worse, and Coach McKenzie, clear of his Lamborghini, walked away. The track was swept, but because of cars on the track, they had to be diverted for a couple of laps through the pit lane, and that kept the race going as Angelique de Tavernier's Audi was dragged out of harm's way. Coach McKenzie's battered Lamborghini we may not see tomorrow. Daniel Vogt's car with even more damage. And so after 10 minutes or so behind the safety car, we got back underway, and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini was straight on the money, pulling clear as Patrick Van Glebeker lost his second place to Anthony Pons. Tried to fight back on the inside line, but he just could not do it. It was an easy pass coming into the bus stop by Pons that put him through. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini out front, kept on building the advantage. It was an easy win in the end, and a very happy Italian taking honours in the qualifying race in the Blancpain GT Sports Club. AF Corse are a happy team as well, running Pier Giuseppe Perezzini. Race win in this qualifying race. With it, there's the top step of the podium, but also, of course, pole position for tomorrow's main race. And so this majestic Spa circuit, which, as I was saying earlier, has been incredibly busy all weekend, not yet done for the day, because there's a short break, and then the GT cars get a warm-up session ready for tomorrow, because there's not really time in the timetable tomorrow to have a warm-up session for them, so it happens this evening. And then you've got the Super Pole shootout after that. It also gives the Super Pole 20 cars and drivers an opportunity to make sure that all is well. The cars are all set up absolutely spot on, ready for what they will need going into the 2-lap shootout. Everybody gets 2 time laps, and you count your better for the grid position. So we'll have the winning drivers for the 2 podium ceremonies very shortly, the overall and the Iron Cup. And for the top step of both, it will be Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, after a majestic drive, untroubled and unflustered, dominating the race. So the fans in the stands opposite the podium find themselves on the big screens that are installed this weekend, and will no doubt in due course head into the woods to watch the GT cars later on in the evening when they go out for Super Pole, because although it's a good atmosphere near the start and finish line, there's nothing quite like seeing the cars out in the forests around here where they really can stretch their legs. And there's part of it, the run through Cours Paul Frere, speed building all the time. You see some of the team transporters right down at the bottom at Stavelot there, so full is the paddock. And up in the campsites, then the fans, plenty of German fans as well as Belgian and Dutch fans, and a good number of Brits are all here enjoying this long weekend, this real festival of motorsport that we have. The livestock, however, just gets on with the rather more mundane duty of grazing. For Pier Giuseppe Perezzini then, a tremendous dominant drive, and he will make his way to the podium as the barbecues are lit in the campsites. And tomorrow, as is tradition, Spa will be a very busy place indeed. The Spa 24 Hours, always an event that attracts a big crowd and a real focal point of Belgian motor racing. There was a 24-hour race at Zolder, but this is the one that's always had the big cachet. For many, many years run for touring cars, but then switched as touring car racing. Didn't really have an international option, certainly not for endurance racing, to the FIA GT Championship, and then in turn that morphed into a one-off race for GT2, GT3 and GT4 cars, and it was from that race that the Blancpain Endurance Series was born. And with lots of amateur drivers coming into that, there was discussion among some that, well, it's a little bit awkward racing against all these pro drivers, and is there a way we could have a race to ourselves? And so the Blancpain GT Sports Club was born, and it has always attracted good entries and enthusiastic drivers, including Klaus-Dieter Frers, including there in the background, I think, Steve Earle, and also Patrick Van Glebeker. So we are almost ready to go. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, there's Anthony Pons in the ACA ASP white, black and orange overalls. Photographers ready as well opposite, ready for the photographs. There is Patrick Van Glebeker, hat on. And as soon as the instruction is given, then hopefully drivers can be called forward. Klaus-Dieter Frère is busy discussing life. So we've got the 5 drivers that we need, because Pier Giuseppe Perezzini will be on 2 podiums. And so now the drivers are called forward, with 3rd place being to Patrick van Glavecke after a good run in his Ferrari 488 GT3. Then for 2nd place, onto the podium will come the championship leader, Anthony Pons, with another good haul of points, with Pier Giuseppe Perezzini out for the first time. So although he scores, of course, it is now taking his tally away from 0. And with this being the qualifying race, it's only 8 for a win, not 25 in the main race. So the top 3 on the podium, and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, the Italian, takes the outright win here at Spa. So the trophies to be presented in a moment, as Pier Giuseppe Perezzini will be a delighted man. And the podium ceremony, part 1, for the overall top 3 is underway. The trophies presented, and a very happy trio of drivers is Nathalie Meillet from the second Spa-Francorchamps, the CEO, who hands over the trophies. The qualifying race winner, Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, down for pole position as well for the main race tomorrow. But can Anthony Pons make a better start? Of course, he lost out early on. He was on the outside of row 1, but dropped a place or 2 going down towards La Source. He needs to fight back when we get to the start of the main race tomorrow. Be quicker out of the blocks in order to maintain any realistic chance of scoring a race win. But we'll see how things fare tomorrow when the race gets underway. And also, of course, the other question mark is over those damaged cars. Are they going to be repairable overnight? Of course, HP Racing has got 2 damaged Lamborghinis, so do they have enough parts and manpower and labour to get both into the race, or will they just have to concentrate on getting 1 car out? It's a tough call for them to make. So we will have then the Iron Cup drivers shortly onto the podium. The over 60s being another worthwhile category to attract the gentlemen racers in, to give them something to fight for. And there is Steve Earle with the dark glasses and the distinctive moustache, who takes 3rd place in the Iron Cup. And a great enthusiast, all smiles, even though it's only for 3rd in class. Klaus-Dieter Frère for 2nd, and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini then outright winner in the Blancpain GT Sports Club, and Iron Cup winner as well. And a great advert for the over 60s in a Ferrari, isn't it? Top 3 in the Iron Cup, all in Ferraris. So the Italian national anthem fades away, drivers' hats on, and there is Steve Earle receiving his 3rd place trophy from Nathalie Meillet. Then they will be for Klaus-Dieter Frère at the other end of the podium, the 2nd place trophy. But Steve Earle still counting his lucky stars. I think that he got away without any damage in what could have been a big shunt if he'd have got involved in it, and other cars piling in behind. So thankfully a major contretemps avoided, and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini takes another trophy to add to the outright trophy that he got a few moments ago. So there are 3 winning drivers from the Iron Cup at the end of the Blancpain GT Sports Club qualifying race, main race to come tomorrow, and that again will be a dramatic affair for sure. So there the champagne sprayed by Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, who takes his trophies, heads from the podium, and we look forward to the main race tomorrow that will get underway here bright and early, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning local time. If you're up and about, we'll see you then. For now, from David Addison at Spa, it's goodbye. We'll see you over breakfast tomorrow morning.